Stephen Guilbeault makes his boldest claim to save the environment yet. And that's a stretch considering not even a month ago we were talking about carbon from belching and farting cows. I can't believe this claim is one that I'm going to say is probably his worst, but let's get into it.
Oh, yeah!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. I don't know about you. I get really sick and tired of talking about the crazy, out of this world plots that the Liberal government bring toward us, especially when it comes to their money siphoning, scam ridden, bold claims towards the environment when we talk about things like climate change. Now, this reminds me a lot of, well, if you're amongst my older audience, you probably don't get the reference, but we're going to say when Al Gore referenced the old man bear pig character on South Park. The whole joke of the man bear pig character was that it was this totally out of this world creature that supposedly existed and was causing all these problems on the earth. And the reason it was so outrageous was because it comes along the same myth as climate change. And that's what we're getting into today with Stephen Guilbeault, because boy, he's talking about electric vehicles. This comes from the Montreal Gazette, so of course it was done with a French newspaper. Um, uh, You'll have to forgive my level of enthusiasm here because while I found this story utterly funny and unbelievable, I find it so atrocious that I even have to mention it or talk about it. But here we go. In a discussion about electric vehicles, he says that it's not the panacea for climate change. But we're going to get into, a little further in the story, the biggest problem and this entitlement of this Looney Tunes man who thinks that he has the right to control what you do in your life. It wasn't enough that the government locked us in our homes for 2 years, but they want to limit your access. When we talk about things like 15-minute cities, if this article doesn't spew 15-minute cities, I don't know what does. Electric cars are among the many necessary solutions to Canada's environment problems. No, they're not. They are far from panacea. Environment and Climate Change Minister Stephen Guilbeault told a conference on public transit in Montreal on Monday. We must stop thinking that electric cars will solve all of our problems, said Guilbeault. Well, that's a bold statement. I mean, no, they won't. They aren't even going to come close to solving our problems. We live in a country where snow exists at least 4 to 6 months out of the year. If we get a good year, 4 months. Electric vehicles, when you charge them, when you plug them in, even if they'll start in minus 20, minus 30 weather, you will not gain the benefits of a full charge. You'll probably get half. So unless you're using your car merely for an in-town commute, you're not going to gain the benefits of an electric vehicle. Not to mention fires, batteries exploding, or the cost of replacing batteries that cost just as much as another car. He was a keynote speaker at a fundraising luncheon at the Westin Montreal via live video feed from Ottawa. I wonder how much he was paid to appear at this fundraiser. The event was organized by the public transit advocacy group, the Trajectoire Quebec, and brought together about 250 key players in the fields of public transportation, municipal policies, energy, and environment. Guilbeault said overestimating the ability of electricity-powered transportation to solve climate change and other environmental crises would be an error and a false utopia that will let us down over the long term. Guilbeault noted that about 1/4 of Canada's greenhouse gas emissions, which is very little, comes from transportation. While his government supports electrification vehicles, it also has been investing heavily in other programs and plans to move Canadians out of private cars and into public transit or active forms of transportation. Again, these are forms of transportations that are managed by municipalities, which means government. They don't want you to own anything, they want you to be dependent on them. He said the Liberal government has committed $30 billion to develop public transit since 2016 and has announced the country's first recurrent financing program for public transit projects, which will provide $3 billion per year for projects starting in 2026. The Liberal government has also introduced an active transportation fund in 2021. Where are they getting all this money from? Billion-dollar slush funds, anybody? Investing 400 million into projects that will encourage walking, cycling, the use of wheelchairs, scooters, e-bikes, rollerblades, snowshoes, and cross-country skis. How many of you guys are going to get to work on a good old pair of snowshoes? Or by cross-country skiing to work? I know some people cycle to work because they want to get their cardio in before they start their workday. I don't know about you guys, but even living in Calgary, I don't see anybody snowshoeing or cross country skiing into their jobs. Projects funded include multi use pathways, bike lanes, footbridges across roadways, new lighting, signage, and communication that encourages active transportation. So, again, they want to limit your ability to drive. When they talk about things like phasing out gas powered vehicles by 2030, and oh, you must go electric. I mean, look, what I would say to any of these people that push these narratives, when it's Justin Trudeau, when it's Stephen Guilbeault, um, get rid of your multi-million-dollar homes, give up your SUVs, drive an electric car, live off the grid, give up your $5,000 suit that you wear to work every day. Um, show me that you're composting. Show me all these environmentally friendly things you're doing at home. Show me that you're drinking your government paid for whiskey out of a paper straw. Do something to show me that you actually take these things serious, because the claims that are about to be made are so asinine, because these are the same services that our government use that they want to tone down. Besides funding these types of projects, all levels of government must make the hard decision to stop expanding the road network, he said. Adding more roads and new lanes on existing roads has proven to encourage more car use, which means more congestion and more calls for road expansion, he said. What a stupid, stupid comment. No, let's not make any more roads. Let's just tell people to walk everywhere. This is, again, if you've never seen an explanation for why a government feels that it deserves to implement a 15-minute city, there it is in black and white, ladies and gentlemen. We don't need to build or expand on roads. Forget that we have mass migrants coming to the country. Forget that we're growing at a rapid rate. Forget that we have homeless people in the streets or anything. We should not build roads. Let's go back to horse and carriage. Let's go back to the dark ages, right? Do you see governments getting to work via snowshoes and cross-country skis? I don't. All these guys, anytime you hear of these protests, even when they're doing pipeline protests, everybody goes there in their polyester jackets that are made from oil byproducts. They're using their cell phones to film their videos and post to TikTok that are made by oil byproducts. They're driving their SUVs, large trucks, and luxury vehicles to these protests to spit their 5 cents in people's face, tell them how wrong they are, and leave, which are completely manufactured and run by oil and oil byproducts. These are the biggest hypocrites in our system that are telling us, the people, we must cut back while they just continue on. He said the money that in the past was regularly invested in asphalt and concrete for ever expanding road network is better invested into projects that will help fight climate change and adapt to its impacts. I can't even read the rest of the article because it just goes on to talk about the same nonsense, the same rhetoric and the same jargon. But when he says it's to fight climate change, do you know what he's talking about? Nothing to do with the environment. If we look at Arrive Scam and the millions and millions of dollars that was funneled into people's pockets, when we talk about $1,900 a day per diems given to people, the contracting companies that were getting the bids for the contracts being allowed to write the rules of their own contracts. This is what he's talking about, is don't spend money on roadways. Give it to us. Give it to us to pad our pockets. Give it to us to throw away and spend and keep living the high life while you plebs sit in the dark, have nothing, and snowshoe and cross-country ski to work. It is the most radical, idiotic suggestion I've ever heard come out of the Liberals' mouths. This man should be fired immediately. Not only has his plastic straw ban been ruled as unconstitutional, but he's gone off the rails against uh, provincial premiers like Scott Moe and Danielle Smith, saying, "How dare you invest in oil? How dare you invest in carbon capture?" Because even though our carbon footprint is net zero with all the CO2 emissions that get sucked up by our boreal forests, they still want to impose these ridiculous tariffs and charges on us, and they keep pushing the word climate change. This is the new racist, misogynist, selfish, dirty anti-vaxxer. How do we tolerate them? They just take up space. That's what the word climate change is. They're grouping you into a category to say you're all dirty, filthy pigs, and the only way for you to get out of this mess is to keep paying money. Money that we pad our pockets with. I feel like I'm dancing in circles, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to turn into a rant. I really don't want it to turn into a rant because you have a day to get on with. I've got a day to get on with. But let me know what you think down below in the comments about this completely out of left field comment from Stephen Guilbeault. And if somebody could enlighten me as to what credibility this man has being an MP in the House of Commons, I would definitely appreciate the explanation. Make sure if you're here and if you enjoyed this video, I hope it earned your subscription. Click the subscribe button and your bell for notifications. Leave a comment, like, share, do all the usual YouTube stuff, because anytime we criticize Captain Socks and his ridiculous MPs, like in this video, we get smashed down in the algorithm. So help get the video out with your thumbs up, your comments, sharing it out. That all helps us in the algorithm. And join us here this Friday on the chat for our new streaming show, Friday Night Fringe, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Central here on the channel. We're going to go over silly topics like this, and we're also going to talk about everything else that happened in the week, as well as a little bit of back and forth with the community. And I get to hear what you guys have to say outside of making these videos. I always enjoy hearing what you guys have to say, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you there this upcoming Friday, again, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Central. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and without snowshoes or cross-country skis, I'll catch you on the next one.